Have you heard of the machine gun mounted on a scooter or the kamikaze pigeon-piloted guided missile? One of the most productive methods of invention in human history is military technical advancement. Tragically, conflict can and has helped humanity push the bounds of technology beyond our wildest dreams. From humble origins, it has aided in propelling our species to greater technical heights. When it comes to armed warfare, the most incredible way to win is to stack the odds in your favor. Militaries worldwide have created and invented some bizarre contraptions to keep up with each other. Hey everyone, how are you doing today? Before we proceed with this video, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Kindly click on the notification bell to get updates on our exciting content. Today, join us as we gaze nervously through the fog of war to reveal the most bizarre military machines ever created. Let's dig in. Moke Miniature. The Minimoke was a compact utility and recreational vehicle that represented four-wheeled automobiles. The British Motor Company sought to capitalize from Land Rover's military vehicle revenues by prototyping a lightweight military vehicle. The Moke was marketed as a parachute-droppable vehicle to the British and U.S. armies. The Moke was rejected due to its low ground clearance and weak engine. Instead, the Royal Navies of the United Kingdom and New Zealand accepted it. Because of its modest dimensions, 10 feet long and 4 feet broad, the Moke was excellent for driving on the deck of an aircraft carrier and through congested docks. Pigeon-guided missiles. The exceedingly unique pigeon-guided bombs of Project Pigeon were another strange war machine. 3 pigeons might be housed at a time in specially built missile nose cones. The pigeons were taught to focus on and peck at a target projected on a screen using a technique known as B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning. Each pigeon was placed in a miniature cockpit with a little electronic screen in front of them. The pigeons used their conditioning training to guide the missile to its target. The weapon would fire once all 3 pecked at the screen. The initiative was canceled in 1944, but it reappeared in 1948 under the codename Project Orkan. The concept was finally laid to rest with the introduction of computerized guidance systems. USS Supply. The USS Supply, which represents surface ships, appears to be an error on this list at first glance. The fully rigged ship resembled most other warships that cruised in the latter half of the 19th century. The origin behind the Supply begins in 1855, when Secretary of War Jefferson Davis, yes, that Jefferson Davis, had the brilliant notion of having the U.S. Army deploy camels in southwestern operations. Supply was modified into the U.S. Navy's first and only camel carrier in order to transport the humped critters to America. She was outfitted with special hatches, stables, hoists, and a camel vehicle to load and unload the dromedaries. In North Africa, Supply took up a herd of camels, only to realize that she was still unable to fit the towering camel humps. The crew had to cut away areas of the deck where the camels' humps could poke out in order to fit the camels in the hold. In 1856, Supply completed her mission by bringing the camels to Indianola, Texas. At the eruption of the Civil War, the concept of camel cavalry was abandoned, and Supply's employment as a camel carrier came to an end. Vespa 150 TAP. The Vespa 150 TAP is another of history's strange combat machines. This military technology, a modified Vespa cycle, was designed to be used by French paratroopers as an anti-tank gun platform. The vehicle was first debuted in the mid-1950s and was made under license from the Vespa firm by Ateliers de Construction des Motorcycles des Automobiles. Each vehicle was equipped with a single M20 75mm recoilless rifle capable of penetrating armor to a depth of 3 15/16 inches of an inch, 100 millimeters. The scooter was designed to be dropped in with paratroopers to give strong support during missions. The scooter platform is obviously inconvenient for the gun, therefore it would be disassembled and remounted on a Browning machine gun tripod when it actually fired. However, the pistol could allegedly be fired while still mounted to the Vespa in an emergency. This is due to the strategic routing of propellant gases through the back of the main gun while firing, which reduced recoil. VA14 Barnikov. The VA14 was a Soviet wing-and-ground effect aircraft created in the early 1970s that represented fixed-wing aircraft. The VA14 was built to take off from the sea and fly for great distances at high speeds just above the surface. Its objective was to skim the ocean's surface in search of and destroy U.S. submarines. The development of 2 prototypes was hampered by flotation issues, engine problems, and the death of the aircraft's designer. After 107 flights and 103 flight hours, the project was shelved. One specimen can be seen today in the Soviet Central Air Force Museum in Moscow in a dismantled state. Surcouf. This submarine cruiser hybrid was a true fighting machine. The Surcouf is one of the oddest combat vehicles you'll likely ever see, designed to exploit a gap in the post-World War I Washington Naval Treaty. In an attempt to avoid the kind of weapons race that led to one of the most terrible wars in human history, the Washington Naval Treaty established strict limits on the displacement and gun caliber of new vessels. It only applied to surface ships like battleships and cruisers, though. To get around this, the French created a submersible ship with cruiser-like weaponry. She was commissioned in 1934 with 10 torpedo tubes, 6 anti-aircraft guns, and 2 massive 8-inch 203mm cannons in a pressure-tight turret forward of the conning tower. She also had a small hangar that held a Besson MB-411 observation float plane. Believe it or not, the Surcouf escaped capture following France's capitulation in 1940, but she is recorded as sinking in the Caribbean Sea in February 1942 after colliding with an unknown ship. German ball tank from World War II. This astounding battle machine, known as the Krugenpanzer or Rollzug, was, believe it or not, once a real piece of military hardware. It was created as a one-person armored motor car by the Germans sometime during or before World War II, and its name loosely translates to spherical or ball tank. Little is known about this mysterious battle machine, but there is one surviving example in Russia. The tank was presumably planned as a scouting vehicle armed with a single 7.62mm machine gun and was produced by the German Krupp Company. It was unlikely to have been designed as an offensive armored fighting vehicle due to its thin armor, which is roughly 0.1 inch, 5mm thick AFV. The tank's revolving hemispheres on either side of the ball supplied propulsion, which was powered by a single-cylinder two-stroke engine. The only known example is in poor condition, and there are no known design records from the war. The Soviets captured the Russian model, most likely in Manchuria, and it is now on exhibit at Moscow's Kubinka Tank Museum. This model was altered after it was captured, and it was repainted at the turn of the millennium. Chrysler. When it comes to weird tanks, this bizarre battle vehicle is truly unique. It was designed to be fueled by a real nuclear reactor and included CCTV to give the crew a 360-degree view. The tank was never built, despite being an intriguing concept. Yes, we were dissatisfied as well. The tank's entire crew, as well as ammo depots, electrical systems, and other systems, would be housed in the odd-looking large turret. It also served as a form of floating device, allowing the tank to be used in water. The TV-8, if it was ever built, would have been armed with one 90mm T209 smoothbore main cannon and 2 manuals, a remote-controlled machine gun, and a 30 caliber machine gun. The pod has a 50 cal placed on top of it. It would have weighed roughly 25 tons if it had ever gone into production. Ribaldaquin. The Ribaldaquin, also known as the Ribald or Ribault infernal gun or organ gun, is one of the strongest weapons of war ever devised. This multi-barreled volley gun was developed in the late medieval period and was used in battle during the 14th and 15th centuries. These guns, which were primarily utilized as anti-personnel weapons, were probably effective shock weapons, but they would have taken a long time to reload. The first was used in anger by King Edward III of England in 1339 during the 100 Years' War against the French. According to historical records, the weapon featured roughly 12 barrels, each of which could fire a volley of 12 small-caliber rounds in a single shot. Milan utilized later examples throughout the Italian wars, and they even showed up during the English War of the Roses. The Russian Object 279 tank. Another of the strangest military machines ever built is the Soviet-era Object 279 Khotin tank. These gigantic battle vehicles, weighing in about 60 tons each, were built to resist a nuclear blast. This steel monster was meant to operate over a cross-country terrain generally unreachable to regular tanks of the time, and it did so on 4 tracks. The Khotin was developed in the late 1950s at the Kirov plant in Leningrad with a pre-production model finished in 1959. A 100-horsepower 2DG-8M diesel engine propelled the tank to a top speed of 34 miles per hour. It has a spectrum of around 186 miles, 300 kilometers, and is fitted with automatic firefighting systems, smoke-laying equipment, and internal air conditioning. The main armament of the tank was a 130mm M65 rifled cannon with a semi-automated loader, as well as a number of coaxial machine guns sprinkled around the hull. It possessed near-impenetrable durable 10.6-inch 269mm armor plating molded into an oval shape to protect the tank from APDS and shaped-charge anti-tank ammunition. It was created as a heavy breakthrough tank. The turret's armor plating was significantly thicker. Its body shape also assisted it in resisting the high forces produced by nuclear explosions. Given its design, the tank was a significant success, but it was eventually abandoned after Nikita Khrushchev prohibited the construction of tanks weighing more than 37 metric tons. That's all there is to it for today. We hope you liked this quick tour of some of the craziest military machines in the world. Fortunately, there are plenty more out there for you to discover. If this video was insightful for you, then go on and like this video. Please kindly subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon for more of our updates.